Hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation of the Capitol Hill Traffic Calming Plan. I'm David Scheer, the current chair of the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council, which through its Transportation Committee coordinated the development of this plan. What we're going to do in this presentation is to give you an overview of the plan, which I want to emphasize right from the beginning is not finalized, which is why we've prepared this presentation for you. The plan is the result of over 2 years of work with the council, concerned residents, and the Salt Lake City Transportation Division, as well as many other partners, which you'll see in a minute. The presentation is for the purpose of informing you about the plan and seeking your feedback, and we will show you at the end of the various ways there are to do that. Here's an outline of the presentation you're about to see. We'll start off with some background to help you understand how the plan came about and how it got to its present state. We'll go through the issues that we think are most pressing confronting Capitol Hill with regards to traffic. We'll then set out the goals for the plan and strategies, which is our term for specific types of interventions that we can make to implement our goals, the timeline, and finally, an opportunity for your feedback, which is perhaps the most important part of this entire presentation. So to start with some background, the Capitol Hill Traffic Calming Plan is the result of a nearly 3-year process, which was coordinated by the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council's Transportation Committee. It involved community involvement in the form of a number of online meetings, which took place during the pandemic, to identify issues that people from different parts of the neighborhood saw that they wanted addressed, and an ongoing intensive partnership with Salt Lake City's Transportation Division, which is where the engineers who design our streets live and work. And they were instrumental in coming up with the proposals of the plan, which, if the community agrees to implement them, they will see to it that they are well designed and properly implemented. We also worked with a number of other partners that you can see here on the slide. All of them were very helpful and instrumental in giving us a broad basis for the plan and a wide variety of kinds of input. The Capitol Traffic Calming Plan is part of the city's Livable Streets program. This is a very recently introduced program by the city's Transportation Division to try to make the city safer for pedestrians and cyclists throughout the city. You can see the entire document that they've produced at this website here that's on the screen. And we are very proud that Capitol Hill was chosen as the first case study for the Livable Streets program. So hopefully some of the things we try here will find applications in other neighborhoods and help them solve their own transportation, that is, traffic problems. So what are the issues that we have identified so far? And perhaps you will recognize some of these in your neck of the woods, and perhaps you may have others which we can add. But here are the issues that have been identified so far that affect Capitol Hill's livability. The high volume and speed of commuter cut-through traffic. This is not going to come as a surprise to anybody here. Our neighborhood makes a lovely cut-through in the opinion of commuters on their way to the Capitol or the church office building or downtown or the university. And being in a hurry to get to work, they aren't necessarily observant of all of the traffic control signs that we have and of all of the pedestrians and cyclists who are out on our streets. In some areas, particularly Third West, we have a real issue with heavy industrial traffic. This is the result of our gradual evolution from that being an industrial corridor to it now becoming essentially a neighborhood street. It is a street which is a state route, which means that everything on it is controlled by the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT. So the city doesn't have a great deal of ability to affect the way that street is regulated or designed. But we have been working with UDOT and also some of the companies that use the street for their commercial industrial trucking and trying to find ways of reducing the noise and debris that those trucks have generated, continue to generate. In other parts of the neighborhood, we have a real problem with racing and what we call exhibitionist motoring. People who have modified mufflers on their cars to be extremely loud and who enjoy driving up neighborhood streets at entirely inappropriate speeds. So these are the major issues which we have identified that the plan is intended to address. So what are our goals? Well, they're basically to address these issues, to reduce the speed and volume of commuter cut-through traffic, to redirect. We can't stop it, we don't want to, but we would like to redirect this noisy, dangerous, and polluting industrial traffic. We would like to curtail speeding and parading of vehicles with modified mufflers. And an important goal is not to solve a problem on one street only to push it onto another, so that the plan looks at the entire neighborhood at once, so that this will not happen, so that if we solve a problem on one street, it does not create a problem on another. All of these goals contribute to lowering pedestrian and bicycle injury rate and death rates, to reducing emissions and improving our air quality, and to reducing noise levels to make our neighborhood more livable. It's surprising, it was surprising to me when I first learned about this, that a very small change in the speed of a car can make a dramatic difference in how severe a person's injuries are if they're in an accident with that car. It turns out, studies have shown that if the car is going 20 miles an hour as opposed to 25 miles an hour, the chances of the pedestrian being killed are half, which is an astonishing figure if you stop to think about it. So even making small reductions in the speed that vehicles are traveling through our neighborhood will increase pedestrian and bicycle safety tremendously. Now let's take a look at some of the strategies which the plan envisions to achieve its goals. The fundamental strategy underlying the rest of the plan is what we call the 3 E's: education, engineering, and enforcement. It's convenient that those 3 words start with E. Education refers to the education of drivers, but also to the education of law enforcement, the education of those who design and maintain our streets, and pedestrians and cyclists who use these streets. Drivers need to be educated primarily to the fact that if they are availing themselves of a Capitol Hill street to take a shortcut through their work, that they are using a neighborhood street, and that there are people whose kids and pets live around here, and that they need to treat our neighborhood like a neighborhood. This goes actually for the industrial traffic on 3rd West too. As I said before, 3rd West has become really a neighborhood street, although not long ago it really was a kind of industrial corridor. And so we need to educate drivers, the truck drivers, to recognize the fact that they're in a neighborhood and that the noise that their engine brakes make and that their excessive speeds that require the use of engine brakes to slow down, and the debris that falls off of their loads if they're uncovered, are really undermining the quality of life, people living in their homes a stone's throw away from where they're driving. Engineering refers to the design of the streets. It ranges from signage to narrowing streets, creating bump outs at corners, to putting in speed bumps and similar things to keep people's speed under control. Enforcement obviously involves the police making sure people follow the posted speed limit signs, stop signs, and so forth. That is the 3rd leg of the plan, and we'll discuss the role that enforcement plays in the plan in a minute. So here are the basic strategies, the means that we envision using to achieve our goals. Speed suppression elements. That means physical structures in the street that research has shown get people to slow down. This can mean building bump outs at the corners. It can mean speed bumps, speed humps, speed tables, all kinds of things like that. It can mean things that are done on the sides of the street in the tree medians. that create a sense of more enclosed space, which does psychologically get people to slow down. Stop signs and highlighted stop bars to try to encourage people to obey the stop signs and to come to a full stop where they're now sort of allowed to roll through. Shortening the crosswalks for pedestrians so that they're exposed to traffic for a shorter period of time while they're crossing a street. Lowering speed limits and making turn restrictions, meaning that traffic traveling in a particular direction is not allowed to turn into the neighborhood. Some work can be done with signal sequencing, that is the sequencing of the lights at a traffic signal to improve safety and efficiency, and signage can be made more legible, clearer, to enable drivers to drive safely more easily. So, speeding is an important issue. And the first question people tend to ask is, why don't the police enforce the speed limit? Well, the police would love to enforce the speed limit, but they have a couple of problems. For the moment, they are tremendously understaffed, and naturally emergency calls, when you call it 911, take priority over traffic enforcement. While their personnel, well, they're rebuilding their personnel, it will, I think, always be true that the police regard emergencies and life-threatening situations or property-threatening situations as a higher priority than traffic enforcement. So even when the police department is completely back up to full strength, I think that we need to look past enforcement to achieve the goals of our plan, which brings us to engineering solutions. There's a whole family, a whole zoo of things that slow cars down by creating a bump. There are speed humps, there are speed bumps, there are speed tables, there are speed cushions. And these all are different kinds of things that one way or another create a slight raise in the surface of the street. Therefore, they're called vertical devices that, if cars or vehicles don't slow down, gives them a rather nasty jolt. Other engineering solutions include narrowing lanes, curb extensions like bump outs that I've mentioned. So a lot of questions come up about these vertical things, humps, lumps, cushions, and so on. People want to know, do they work? Do they make noise? Do they slow down emergency vehicles, which we don't want to do? Do they interfere with snow removal? These are all very, very good questions. And with the Transportation Division's help, we think we have answered most of them. First of all, if you think of a speed bump as like this yellow thing in the upper left-hand picture here, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking much more about the kind of thing you see in the lower right, which is actually a polyethylene plastic cushion which is bolted down to the road. And as you can see in the picture, it's got gaps in it that allow a fire truck to go through. This family of devices has been used very successfully all over the country and in other neighborhoods in Salt Lake City you might have visited to control speeding. If you look at the map I will show you, and if a speed bump or some kind of thing like that is shown on the map near your house, you will have an opportunity to give your input as to whether you want that thing there or not. The design has some flexibility and we can move them around. But before anybody makes up their mind, there will be demonstration projects, at least two, where we will install these things in specific areas, and you will be able to go and see for yourself whether they work, whether they create a lot of noise, and other issues you think they might have, and you can see if they really do have them. So as far as Third West goes, we're working with the city and with UDOT to divert traffic off of Third West. We're also working with UDOT to lower the speed limit on Third West, which will not only reduce the amount of engine noise, but also reduce the need for the trucks to employ their engine brakes, which are so loud. And we're working with Staker Parson and other companies up on Beck Street to educate their drivers to use the alternative routes. There is a long-term solution, probably on the order of 8 to 10 years away, but The ideal would be to build a bridge over the railroad tracks so that drivers from the quarries can directly access I-15 at the 2300 North on-ramp there and avoid 600 North altogether. So what exactly is in the plan? What the plan is a proposal for specific measures to implement our strategies and achieve our goals. All of these things have been vetted and approved by Salt Lake City transportation engineers. And what we're doing now with this presentation and other venues is to provide all of you with the opportunity to give your input on what we've put together so far. You can visit our website, and I'll give you the URL in a minute. You can sign up to receive our emails. We will be having some localized meetings, people in a smaller area of the neighborhood who share certain kinds of problems. And I mentioned these demonstration projects, these trial speed humps that are going to be installed. So here's the plan. At the left, you can see the URL where you can go and you can view this plan on your computer. If you click on the plan, once you're on that page, it will open up a much larger and better resolution view, which you can zoom in on in order to see the detail in a neighborhood or a particular area that you're interested in. So I won't go into this now because people will be interested in different parts of the neighborhood depending on where you live. But please make a note of this URL here and visit it so you can check out to see exactly what is anticipated in your area of the neighborhood. Here's our timeline. As you can see the work that was done from 2019 through early 2022. Right now we are in the community feedback phase with demonstration projects. We hope to gather this input and have it in the hands of the Transportation Division by June so that they can proceed with creating the documents that the bids will be based on that will actually determine the construction that will be done. We're anticipating construction to begin sometime in the spring of next year. So this is public engagement phase, as I said, and we will conclude this presentation here so that you can either discuss with people that you might be in the same room with or think about it and respond using one of those means that I mentioned. So here is our website. This is the goals of the engagement plan, which I've gone through. And here are some links that will not only inform you about the plan, but also issues engaging the plan, such as how is traffic calming done in other places? Does it work? How are intersections designed? All kinds of weeds you can get down into if you're interested. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation on the Capitol Hill Traffic Calming Plan, and I look forward to seeing you at several of our meetings where we will refine this. Thank you and have a good day.